Dante's life had always been one full of unexpected twists and heartache, but nothing had prepared him for the revelation that would change everything. The man he had always thought of as his son, his flesh and blood, Gio, was not, in fact, his child. The news hit Dante like a freight train. It was a bitter truth that crushed everything he thought he knew about his past, his relationships, and his future. It all started with a conversation he had never expected to have, one that tore away the walls of his emotions and left him raw. He had spent years trying to protect his family, to shield his loved ones from the harsh realities of life, but in the process, he had missed the most important thing: the truth. The truth about Gio. Now, as he faced his son, the weight of all the missed years and unspoken words lay heavy on his shoulders. Dante's initial reaction had been a mixture of shock and anger. The anger, in particular, was overwhelming. How could Lulu, the woman he loved, have kept this secret from him for so long? How could she have hidden this monumental truth from him, especially considering everything they had been through together? The years they had spent raising their family, the struggles, the triumphs, it all felt like a lie. How could she have allowed this to happen? How could she have known all along that Gio was not his son? The questions flooded his mind, each one more painful than the last. Dante had always believed that family was everything. He had fought for the ones he loved, given his all to protect them, and yet he had been left in the dark about the most important thing of all. How could Lulu have kept this from him? Why didn't she tell him sooner? The thought of her withholding something so vital tore him apart. And then there was Brooke, the other half of the puzzle. How could she have kept such a huge secret from him as well? Dante knew they had a complicated history, but this was beyond anything he could have imagined. He had known Brooke for years, and in his heart, he had always believed there was a connection between them that went beyond friendship. Yet, she too had hidden the truth from him. Why hadn't she told him that he had a son all these years? What had driven her to make such a monumental decision, one that had far-reaching consequences for both their lives? The story of how Brooke had ended up pregnant with Gio was a tale that Dante had only heard in snippets. They had both been young once, with the weight of the world on their shoulders. It was a time of recklessness and confusion, when love and loss had blurred the lines of reality. Dante and Brooke had once been lovers, their bond deep and intense. But circumstances had driven them apart, and in the haze of a drunken night, their lives had diverged in ways neither of them could have anticipated. Brooke had gotten pregnant. But rather than keeping the baby, she had made the difficult decision to place him in an orphanage, hoping that someone else could give him the life she couldn't. The guilt of that decision had haunted her for years, and it was only when she regained her footing that she had gone back to find him. But when she arrived, the orphanage had disappeared, and with it, her chance to reclaim the son she had left behind. For years, Brooke had carried this secret with her, a burden so heavy that it had affected every relationship she had, including the one with Dante. Now, the truth was out, and Dante was left to wrestle with emotions he didn't know how to handle. He was furious at Brooke, at Lulu, but mostly at himself. Why hadn't he seen the signs? Why hadn't he figured it out sooner? The worst part, perhaps, was the way he now saw himself. All those years he had spent thinking Gio was his son, he had been wrong. He had raised him, loved him, and protected him, all under false pretenses. Now, what did that mean? Was he still a father to Gio? Was he still the man who had stood by him all these years? Or was that bond forever broken by the truth of his origins? As Dante sat with Gio, trying to find the right words to say, he realized that the situation was far more complex than he had imagined. What could he possibly say to a son he had raised, only to discover that he was not his flesh and blood? What could he say to someone who had been part of his life for so long, only to find out that their connection was based on a lie? The silence in the room was deafening. Dante's mind raced, but his heart felt heavy. He wanted to say something to Gio, something that would make sense of the confusion, something that would offer comfort. But nothing seemed to come out right. He didn't know how to fix this, how to make things right. All he could do was sit there, wrestling with the overwhelming emotions of regret and disbelief. He regretted all the harsh words he had said, all the times he had lashed out at Gio without understanding the truth. He regretted not being there for Brooke when she needed him, and he regretted not seeing the signs sooner. But most of all, he regretted the lost time, the time that could never be recaptured. Gio, for his part, had his own struggles to deal with. His world had been turned upside down as well. The revelation that Dante wasn't his biological father had shattered the image he had carried of their relationship. But even in the midst of this revelation, he still saw Dante as a father figure. The bond they shared, though founded on a lie, was real. It was a connection that had been forged over years of shared experiences, of laughter and tears, of victories and defeats. The truth may have shaken them both, but it didn't change the fact that they were still family. And despite the anger, the regret, and the confusion, they were still bound by love, a love that could withstand the most devastating of revelations. What Dante would say to Gio in the end didn't matter as much as what they would do together from this point forward. Would they allow this truth to tear them apart, or would they find a way to rebuild their relationship and move forward? Only time would tell.